We have been talking about the WRF model, physical processes in the WRF model. And today is the fourth lecture in the series. As you know, WRF is a numerical weather prediction model, but it can also be used for many purposes, like for climate application, hydrological application, chemistry transports, and many. And in that series, we discussed the dynamics part of the model, and we are now discussing the physics part. Among the physics also, we briefly described the radiation part. We have described about the surface layer processes parameterization, different options for that. We have also discussed about the both land surface processes as well as the surface layer of the atmosphere. Okay, so the next in the series of the physical processes are the planetary boundary layer, cumulus convection, and cloud microphysics. Today we shall try to conclude all these, at least in the remaining 2 hours that we have. Okay, but still a lot of slides to cover because I think we have only covered about 50 or so slides out of 133. So less than half of the slides we have covered so far. Okay, so let's see. Now you already studied about the planetary boundary layer, right? How they are parameterized theoretically, that you have already studied earlier in the NWP classes. Okay, as you know, in this part of the physics, we try to compute the boundary layer fluxage of heat, moisture, momentum, and vertical diffusion, okay, in the entire column of the atmosphere. This is an illustrative diagram. We have already seen this diagram earlier. It illustrates that the boundary layer consists of both surface layer as well as the mixed layer and the free atmosphere at the top of the boundary layer, right? And from the surface of the Earth, we have got sensible heat fluxes, the latent heat fluxes, the frictional effects, etc., which enter into the surface layer and are transported upward through different mechanisms, either through local mixing or through non-local mixing or through turbulent transport processes and so on. Okay. So all these things are incorporated in the PBL parameterization of the model. This diagram also you are familiar with. You have studied this in the theory part. I will have to skip many parts, many slides, otherwise we will not be able to cover the entire physics, remaining physics today. But this basically illustrates the vertical profile of potential temperature in the planetary boundary layer, vertical profiles of the wind, and the vertical profiles of the specific humidity. And you can see how rapidly these profiles vary in the surface layer, as well as in the mixed layer and in the inversion zone or the entrainment zone at the top of the boundary layer. Okay, so all these things you have seen earlier during the study of planetary boundary layer. You remember this diagram earlier? All of you? Have you seen this diagram before?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good, very good. So we'll skip that. Now we come to the options which are used in the WRF model to control or to utilize different versions of the planetary boundary layer or different types of the planetary boundary layer in the model. We have already said that its purpose is to distribute surface fluxes with boundary layer eddy fluxes and allow PBL growth by entrainment. Okay. The controlling parameter is called BL, standing for boundary layer, PBL, planetary boundary layer physics. Okay, there are different types of planetary boundary layer schemes, PBL parameterization schemes. One type is called the turbulent kinetic energy prediction scheme. And in this category, there are many schemes proposed by different people, different scientists. Prominent among them is the Miller-Yamada, a very complex scheme of the boundary layer. Okay, is supposed to be, I mean, it's called the 1.5 order closure scheme or 2.0 order closure scheme. And this Janik is a person who had implemented this memory model scheme in the mod. Then another improved version of that is called MYNN. This is MY stands for always Miller Yamada. Okay, Miller and Yamada are the two different scientists who actually proposed this scheme. Then Bugo, Lacarie, TMFF, QNSC, CAM, University of Washington, etc., etc. Some also include non-local mass flux terms like UNSC scheme, MINN, EDMF, etc., etc. And some are diagnostic method now, which incorporates the fluxage or the transport of the heat, moisture, and momentum through non-local eddies, or so-called also the non-local closure scheme. And in this category, we have YSU, the Yonsei University of Korea, South Korea scheme, the GFS already the MRF also, both of them are part of the NCEP, the schemes which are used in the NCEP model, in the GFS model and in the MRF, that is medium range forecast model. And the ACM2, that is the climate model of the NCAR. So all these models use the non-local closure scheme. Above the planetary boundary layer, all these schemes also do vertical diffusion due to turbulent transport processes. Okay. Now these are the different options available in the WRF model for the PBL parameterization. And these are the option numbers. This is the parameter which controls PL, PBL physics, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on up to 99. There are so many options, and the name of each option or name of each scheme is starting with YSU, that is Yonsei University, South Korea, developed by Hong et al. And Dudia published in the Monthly Weather Review journal in 2006. Okay, and then Miller Yamada's Janik scheme, if you use option number 2, which was published by Janik in 1994, Monthly Weather Review. Then GFS, if you use option number 3, it will use GFS scheme published by Hong and Pan. If you use option number 4, then it will use this scheme. Okay, and they are the authors for that scheme. If you use option number 5, and this is the scheme, and so on. So based upon which option or which scheme we want to use in the model, different numbers are provided for that in the name list parameter, and these are the authors for all of them. You can see for yourself. Okay, again, the question is that which one should we use or which one is the best is very difficult to answer, because it depends on your application and your location where you are using. But still, some of these schemes are slightly economic in the sense of computing requirement, and some of them are quite extensive, which requires extensive computational requirement. Like any scheme which is related to Miller Yamada, whether it is MYJ or MYNN or MYNN3, etc., they are very expensive schemes. Okay, it takes a lot of computer time, although it computes the PPL fluxes more accurately, but it was very expensive. Whereas YSU scheme, the GFS, the MRF, etc., are slightly cheaper schemes. Okay, many of them are recently added. Most recent one I can see in this list is 2015. SH Srin and Hong scheme 2015. It was published in Monthly Weather Review in 2014 and implemented in the WRF model in 2015. Okay, so these are the different PBL parameterization options available in the WRF model. Okay, you have to do your own sensitivity experiments to have a feeling of which scheme performs in what way, which one is good or which one is not so good. Okay, and depending upon which scheme you are using, accordingly it will. Well, I'll show you the list later. But in between, this is a slide which shows, illustrates the non-local PBL schemes. Like you have got eddies, small eddies, and large eddies. Small eddies and large eddies. Okay, and you have got vertical fluxes of heat, moisture, momentum, etc. At the level. So in the non-local closure scheme, you have got large eddies which transports Okay, or these small eddies are automatically manifested in the large eddies, which transport all these fluxes from the surface to the top of the PBL and into the free atmosphere. Okay, and this is how the fluxes are defined. Okay, for different parameters. Okay, so this is for the non-local transport by large eddies. All right, all these blue line these eddies indicated by the blue line indicate the non-local transport by large eddies, whereas the black ones are the small eddies. Okay, they are local transport of the fluxes by small eddies. So, is it clear the concept of the local and non-local? Is it okay? Is it clear to you? Local
Yes,
and
sir.
yeah, local and non-local transport by small and large eddies. All right. And these are the TKE schemes, that is the Turbulent Kinetic Energy Scheme, as I said, developed by Miller-Yamada category. Okay. TKE schemes are the Miller-Yamada category scheme, whether it's MYZ, ZANIC, or MYNN2 or MYNN3, etc. Okay. Now, in this scheme, as I said, it is a slightly expensive scheme because it solves the turbulent kinetic energy equation for each column, grid column of your domain. Okay, it uses the buoyancy and shear production, and also it considers the dissipation of this buoyancy term, buoyancy in the atmosphere. It also allows for the vertical mixing. Okay, the TKE, the turbulent kinetic energy, and the length scale L are used to determine the kV, the exchange coefficients for the momentum for local vertical mixing together with a stability function denoted by S. And this is given by kV equal to e to the power half by S. Okay, where E is your turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, square root of the turbulent kinetic energy divided by the stability function. Okay, the schemes which differ most in diagnostic length scale computations and how S is calculated. I mean, these TKA schemes have this quality and property. Now, in the non-local category schemes, in which small eddies themselves transport the fluxes of heat moisture momentum, they use or they diagnose a PBL top, the depth of the boundary layer, they diagnose in the model or calculate the top of the PBL. Now, either using stability profile or Richardson number. Okay, it specifies a K profile. Okay, that is cubic function of Z with max in the middle of the PBL. Okay, the YSU, that is again the Yonsei University scheme, the MRF, the medium range forecast scheme, model scheme of the NCEP, and the GFS include a non-gradient term called gamma. Okay, the YSU also has explicit entrainment term, the entrainment which mostly occurs at the top of the boundary layer. Okay, cloud bottom, cloud base entrainment, or PBL top entrainment. And these schemes are used in the ACM2, that is the climate model of the NCAR TEMF, EDMF, include a mass flux profile M, which is an additional of gap flux. Then about the calculation of the vertical mixing coefficient. I mean, in this PBL parameterized scheme, it also computes the vertical mixing coefficient. Several schemes also output or compute exchange coefficient of the heat, which is kV for scalars that is used by WRF chemistry. WRF can do scalar and tracer vertical mixing with PBL K coefficients. Okay, and these are the parameters, name this parameter which controls that. Okay, if you want to use a scalar PBL coefficient, then you need to set this as 1. If you want to use the other one, tracer, base one tracer, then you have to set this parameter as 1. The PBL schemes themselves only mix limited variables, momentum, heat, vapor, and some specific cloud variables. Then you have studied about the shallow convection in your Kibbles parameterization schemes. But in the model, the shallow convection is also tied up with the PBL schemes. Okay, because anyway they are confined in a very shallow layer, shallow convection. So some PBL schemes include shallow convection as part of their parameterization. These schemes use mass flux approaches either through the whole cloud top boundary layer, that is in the QNSC scheme or EBFF scheme or DMF scheme, or it only calculates or it uses the mass flux approach from cloud base that is used in these schemes, DBM, University of Washington, PBL, etc. Some schemes, that is YSU, Yamcha University, MYNN, and GBM, include capability of top-down mixing for turbulence driven by cloud top radiative cooling, which is separate from the bottom-up surface flux driven mixing. Okay, this cloud top cooling, that is cooling that occurs at the top of the cloud because of the loss of radiation. Okay, that is also treated, and it is mixed up with the atmosphere through turbulence. And similarly, the bottom up, that is at the bottom of the cloud. You might have seen so-called momentous cloud. Have you seen the momentous cloud photographs? Photo of the momentous cloud?
Yes, sir. In
Yeah,
pictures.
right. Momentous cloud is, you can see also in the reality in nature many times. You can see such clouds, when thunderstorm occurs, and after the shower, after it precipitates out, then you can see at the bottom of the cumulonimbus, at the base of the cumulonimbus, the momentous clouds forming the momentous cloud. Actually, that momentous formation takes place because of the cloud top or the PBL top entrainment instability. I mean, entrainment instability at the top of the PBL or entrainment instability at the base of the cumulonimbus. The momentous forms because of that. Okay, so this is very important. So some of these schemes have the capability to include the top-down mixing of our turbulence driven by cloud top radiative cooling, which is separate from the bottom-up surface fluxes driven mixing. Now, these are the consequences, or these are the different parameters that you have to use if you choose these schemes. Like depending upon which scheme you have chosen, whether YSU scheme or YJ scheme or GFS, etc., which are available in different models. Like YSU scheme is available both in ARW and NMM. Okay, that is the non-nodal study mesoscale model and the ARW, Advanced Research Board. Okay, but if you want to use this scheme, then you have to choose for the surface layer parameterization the option 1 or 91. Recall in the last class, we talked about the surface layer options. Options used for the surface layer are available in the WRF model for the surface layer parameterization. So if you are using this YSU scheme, then you have to use this option for the surface layer because they are kind of hardwired in the model, programming in the code, such that the inputs for scheme YSU are provided by this parameterization scheme of the surface layer. If you are not using this, then you will end up into problem because it will not find the inputs for some of the fluxes parameters and it will fail, it will abort. Similarly, for MYJ, if you are using MYJ scheme, then you must use the option 2 for parameterizing the surface layer processes. Otherwise, it will fail, abort, and things like that, right? In the MYNN2, you have to use these options of the surface layer 1, 2, 5, 91, and so on. Okay, so this table is given, and you can see for yourself now which options you must select for the surface layer parameterization if you are using any particular scheme for the PBL. Okay, then this is the prognostic variables in each of these schemes. Like in the YSU scheme, which is a non-local closure scheme, there is no prognostic variables. But if you are using the Miller-Imada scheme, then in that case, the TKE, the total kinetic energy, is a prognostic variable. Okay, and like that. Okay, so for different schemes, different prognostic variables are available. And these are the diagnostic variables which are available for each of these schemes. Like using the YSU scheme, then the diagnostic variables are exchange of coefficient for the heat. Similarly, for the MYJ, you have got the EL, PBL, exchange for the heat, and so on. And also, in this case, we are using these different PBL scheme, then the cloud mixing with the cloud takes place for these parameter cloud mathematical parameters because it's a non-local closure, so it will mix up also the QC and QI, okay, and so on. You can see from this list. Okay. So they are the PBL schemes table, which provides you the options to be used in combination with the PBL, the surface layer physics, and what are the probabilistic variables and what are the diagnostic variables for each of those schemes. Now, the PBL schemes can be used for most grid sizes when surface fluxes are present. The lowest level should be in the surface layer. Okay, is very important for surface, that is 2 meter and 10 meter temperatures, moisture, and wind diagnostic interpolation. With ACM2, as a climate model, community model, and GFS and MRAP schemes, lowest full level should be 0.99 or 0.995, not too close to 1. 1 is the surface in the sigma coordinate. 1 sigma equal to 1. Do you remember? In the sigma coordinate system, sigma equal to 1 coincides with the surface itself, right? So, your lowest layer, if you are using these schemes, and your lowest layer must have 0.99, 0.995. Okay, I mean, it starts mixing up or calculating the fluxes from this layer onwards. The TKE scheme and YSU can use thinner surface layers. It assumes that PVL ADs are not resolved. At grid size, which is much lesser, smaller than 1 kilometer, that means if you are trying to resolve or simulate eddies or LES, large eddies, uh, okay. LES stands for large area scheme, okay, or turbulence, etc. In which case your grid size is much smaller, very small, definitely less than 1 kilometer. This assumption breaks down. Okay, can use 3D diffusion instead of PBL. If you are using very finer resolution, less than 1 kilometer, then you will have to use 3D diffusion instead of the PBL. Okay, coupled to surface physics. It works best when dx and dz, the vertical grid length, the horizontal grid length and the vertical grid length are comparable. Okay. So this diagram illustrates the scale of your grid. This is for the larger grid size, coarser resolution, and this are for the finer grid size, smaller grid size or finer resolution. Okay, delta much less than 1 and delta much greater than 1. Okay, so this is called the PBL gray zone. And the coarse grid spacing, the PBL schemes have been designed to work when the grid size is greater than 1 kilometer, it can be 10 or 100 or whatever. So certain categories of schemes should be used if you are having a coarser grid model. In that case, all it is are subgrid scale because your grid size is too big, and 1D column schemes handle subgrid scale vertical fluxes. If you are using finer grid spacing, that means 1 kilometer, less than 1 kilometer, or several hundred meters, like for the large eddy simulation models, LES schemes have been designed for this type of grid sizes. All major eddies are resolved in this case because your grid sizes are very small. Three-dimensional turbulence schemes handle surface scale mixing. The gray zone PBL, that means if your grid size is somewhere between neither too big nor too small. Okay, gray size, neither too big nor too small in the zone. The gray zone is sub-kilometer grids. The PBL and LES assumptions are not perfect. No, if you are using a gray zone resolution, your model in the model, then some of the assumptions made for the PBL parameterization or the LES or the simulations, they are not valid in their case. The new Sin Hong PBL based on YSC designed for sub-kilometer transition scales, I mean, even as less than as 200 meters, up to 1 kilometer. If you are using very small size of the grid, about 200 meters to 1 kilometer, then you better use the Sinhong PBL scheme, SH scheme. They are the newer versions of the PBL recently added. It was not available earlier. The non-local mixing gamma term reduces in strength as grid size gets smaller and resolve mixing increases. Other schemes may work in this range but will not have correctly partition resolved surface energy fractions. Now, if you are using the large dish simulation, if you are interested to simulate large dish, right? And among the large dish, you can also say, for example, say small cumulus cloud, individual cumulus cloud, not very big cumulus cloud, but individual cumulus cloud, whose scales are less than say about 1 kilometer or say, okay, or stratocumulus cloud. If you are trying to simulate a stratocumulus cloud, which are smaller in size, then you can use large simulation. Okay. So for grid sizes of up to about 100 meter, LES is preferable. Well, it's too small. I mean, that means you are going to resolve individual eddies. The LES treats turbulence three-dimensionally instead of separate vertical PBL and horizontal diffusion schemes. The TKE and 3D Samagonski options exist for the subgrid scale turbulence. Okay, and in such cases, you have to use these schemes, TKE or 3D Samagonski options. The TKE is also an advanced variable in the LES option. Of the PBL schemes, only MY and N has a TKE advection option. Okay. Further, for the large eddy simulation, if you are trying to run the LES mode, then you should better use PBL option, BL PBL physics is equal to 0. That means you are using the LES mode. And you should use this diffusion option is equal to 2, name this parameter. With KM option is equal to 2 or 3. Okay. And for this LES simulation, you should better use these options. Okay. This scheme can also use real surface fluxes from surface physics, that is heat, fluxes of heat, moisture, momentum, stress, etc., or idealized constant values. Okay, using the LES options. Now these are the LES schemes options. Okay, that means as I said earlier, you must set BL PBL physics at 0 if you want to simulate the LES scheme. Okay. And in that case, now they are the tabulated values. Now you must use now this parameter, name this parameter diff option as 2. This parameter is either 2 or 3. And also you should use TKE or 3D Samagonski scheme for the vertical diffusion, etc. And these are available in ARW only. It's not available in the NMM. You must use the surface layer physics at 0, 1, or 2. Okay. And this parameter IS at 0, 1, 2. And you get the prognostic variables in this case as TKE, the turbulent kinetic energy. The name list ISFF LX controls surface fluxes methods. Okay, and these are the parameters. If you are using 0 or 1 or 2 in combination, you must use this combination for the surface layer physics. And in that case, you get the heat flux from name list parameter, TKE heat flux, etc. The drag coefficient you must use or invoke this TKE drag coefficient. Okay, these are all available mostly for the ideal case, and this support is also available for the real case. Okay. Other options in the PBL scheme is for YSU. You can set topo wind, especially if you are using the topography, your domain is our topography, then you can use topo wind as either 1 or 2. In this case, wind bias correction methods for terrain effects are done. You can also use this option YSU top-down PBL mixing as 1. In this case, cloud top cooling driven mixing is invoked. For the MYNN scheme, Especially people use this for the wind farms now. Wind farms, windmills. Okay, in that case, to investigate the wind farm effects on the environment. Okay, if you are trying to investigate the effect of the wind farms uh, by your WRF model, then you can better use this MYL option for the PVL parameterization. And in that case, it will calculate the extra stress and turbulence relation. Also, if you are trying to use the gravity wave drag parameterization, now many models they ignore that, especially the Corther models. But gravity wave drag, probably I have mentioned earlier in the class, when the flow is over the mountain topography over the mountains, then as it collides, as the wind collides with the mountain surface topography, then it can create drag on the wind flow or can create a small gravity waves and they're carried upwards along the slope of the mountains, and as they go up the waves break, and that way the momentum is transported from one level to another level. Okay, so this effect has to be parameterized in the model, especially this is like a small correction made in the momentum calculation or momentum prediction or prediction of the wind speed u and v. Okay, the gravity parameterization you are using, then it will improve the simulation of the momentum because it will include the gravity wave drag, especially around the mountainous area, mountainous terrain. Okay, so the gravity wave drag can be added for low resolution. In that case, you should better use your model at less than 5 km resolution. It runs to represent the subgrid scale of gravity wave vertical momentum transport, but you have to set this option as 1. The gravity wave drag option you must set as 1 if you want to invoke the gravity wave drag parameterization. Okay. If you are simulating the fog, then you can also set this parameter grav settling as 2 proposed by Katata. Okay, so they are the different options available in the PBL for different purposes, like for simulating the effects of the uh, flow over the mountain terrain, to include the effects of the gravity wave drag, also to investigate the effects of wind mill or wind farm on the environment. So you can use these options. All right. So people have investigated many processes, phenomena, and then recommended that now if you use these options, then you will get better results. This is what it implies. It means, okay. Now the question is that what should be the time interval at which you should calculate the boundary layer fluxes or call the boundary layer parameter subroutine. Now this is controlled by a nameless parameter called BLDT. Okay. The option is given to you. Either you can use or calculate the boundary layer fluxes at every time step, or you can skip some time step. So minutes between boundary layer or LSM is the land surface model calls. Okay. Minutes time in minutes. Typically value is 0. This BLDT is set to be 0, and in that case it will calculate or it will call the boundary layer parameterization schemes at every step of the model integration. The CLM in the LSM is expensive. Okay, so you may consider BLDT in that case not to be different, not 0, right? Because they are expensive. If you have enormous computing power, then there is no problem. Then definitely use uh, BLDT as 0, even for CLM and LSM. Okay. Then subgrid scale eddy mixing effects. There is turbulent diffusion given by this expression. Okay. This is also incorporated in the part of the PVL. Like suppose you want to compute the horizontal diffusion along the model surfaces. Okay, this is illustrating a sigma surface of your model. Okay, and sigma surface can be sloped also. It may not be perfectly horizontal. It can be sloped based on the depending on the terrain. And let us say this is your grid point. These are your grid points on a sloping surface. Okay. Then this name this parameter diff opt one. Diff opt you can use as one, either one or two, depending upon what you want to do or how you want to calculate the fluxes. Suppose you are setting diff option equal to 1, in that case, horizontal diffusion acts along the model levels. The diffusion will be calculated or horizontal diffusion will be invoked along the model surfaces. This simpler numerical method with only neighboring points on the same model level. Okay, but if you use option 2, then it will compute the horizontal gradient of the diffusion, like illustrated in this diagram. Okay, so suppose this is your model level. Okay, schema level of the model slanted in this way. Okay, and you chose the option 2 for diffusion option. This is the diffusion option as you selected as 2 in the netlist. In that case, it will also take into account the horizontal gradients here, because this sigma surface need not be horizontal, right? As you know, because it has to follow the topography, and that need not be horizontal, right? So if you are using the option 2, then it will also compute the gradient, or it will consider the gradient of the horizontal diffusion. Okay. Horizontal diffusion acts on horizontal gradients. Numerical methods include vertical corrections terms using more midpoints. So slightly is more complex. Obviously, it is more complex than the by using the diffusion option 1. Okay. Also, you have got available KM options. Okay. KM option is to compute those exchange coefficient. KM opt selects methods for computing K coefficient. You are using KM option as 1. Okay. Then it will use constant KH diff. This is the exchange coefficient for diffusion, for the heat, and for the momentum, etc. Generally, it is used in the idealized cases. Okay, and like that, different options are available. K option 2, K option 3, and so on. Okay. Then you have also got the SFS option. SFS opt parameter in the netlist, and it allows the sub-filter scale stress model for LES, especially for the LES case. These options are utilized. Okay, applications impacting momentum mixing, discussed by these authors Kosovic and Mirocha. So by default, SFS opt is set to be 0. That means it is off. If you set it to be 1, then it will utilize non-linear backscatter and anisotropic option 1 using diagnostic stress term. If you are using option number 2, then these are the things it will do. Use TKE based stress terms. Okay, also if you are using the option 1, then it gives you added output for SGS stresses. Okay. Then you have also got the choices or options for the diffusion. In the real data case, PBL physics, the best is to use diffusion option equal to 1. Okay, and KM option to be 4. From WRF version 3.6 onwards, you can also use diffusion option 2 now with KM option 4. Was unstable with complex terrain before this version. This complements vertical diffusion done by PBL scheme. High resolution real data cases, approximately grid size 100 meter. Okay, I mean your grid size is very finer, and maybe you are trying to simulate the individual eddies, large eddies, or the turbulence. In that case, you have to set PBL option as 0, no PBL, and use the diffusion option as 2, KM option as 2, 3, etc. Okay, so these are the different options for the diffusion. Further, in the idealized cloud resolving, when you are using your grid size to be 1 to 3 kilometer, then for cloud resolving modeling, smooth or no topography, no surface shift fluxes, you better use diffusion option 2 and KM option 2 or 3. and complex topography with no PBL scheme. DIP option is 2 is more accurate for slope coordinate surfaces and prevents diffusion of down valley sides, but still sometimes unstable with complex terrain. WRF cannot generally handle slopes more than 45 degrees. Okay. So this option is a sound wave damping term. Your slope is too steep. Suppose your mountain is just vertical, straight mountain, rather than having a sloped mountain. So it says that WRF cannot generally handle slopes more than 45 degrees. And in the reality, you can have different types of mountains, having steep topography or smooth topography, okay, mild topography. So in that case, you can use the damping factor for the sound waves. Okay. Note that WRF can run with no diffusion options. Okay. Diff option is equal to 0. Then you have got diff sixth option to use sixth order optional added ornamental diffusion and model levels. Okay, use as numerical filter for 2D noise, 2 delta X noise, suitable for idealized and real data cases, that's all advanced advected variables, including scalars. Okay, so these are the options. You use the sixth option as 0, which is by default, or 1 or 2. Okay, and these are the implications, consequences for that. Okay. The diff sixth factor is also available as option. For non-dimensional strength, typical value of this 0.12 or 1.0 corresponding to a complete removal of 2 delta X wave in real time. Okay, so these are the things which are available to you for different applications. All right. And there are the illustrations for the different options for diffusion. Okay, 1, 2, 3, etc. The purpose is to prevent unrealistic reflections of waves from the model top. Okay, I mean all those things can happen in numerical models. In reality, it does not occur. It will not happen, but in numerical models, it can happen that now from the top of the model, the waves can get reflected back, and which can produce unrealistic effects in your solution. Okay, so you should try to further tune this using these options. Okay, option 1 for upper level diffusion layer, option 2 for relay damping, idealized only needs input soundings, option number 3 for W relay damping, damps what W only. Okay, all options are cosine functions of height. Additional parameters used in this case are Z damp, the damping of depth of the damping layer, damp coefficient, non-dimensional maximum reduces of the damping. So with this PBL parameterization is summarized or described briefly in the WRF model. Now we go on to the next scheme, that is a cumulus parameterization. Okay, cumulus parameterization. Now, as you know, the cumulus parameterization provides atmospheric heat, moisture, cloud tendency profiles, and the subgrid scale or convective scale rainfall. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. So we have completed the PBL parameterization part of the WRF model, and now we are going to discuss the cumulus parameterization options in the WRF model. Now we have discussed this in the theory class. Cumulus parameterization is very important parameterization, and many types of parameterization schemes have been proposed by different authors. Okay. Again, which parameterization of cumulus convection is to use, that will depend upon what is the resolution of your model. Okay, and these are the different scales illustrated in this diagram. If Courser scale, delta X much greater than I actually indicating the energy contained in deep convector of drafts. Okay, or finer scale models. Now in this case, when you are using a Courser model, the cumulus parameterization schemes have been designed for this category of resolution of model separately. Okay, in this case, all the updrafts and downdrafts of the clouds are treated as sub-grid scale because their resolution is coarse. And you try to invoke one-dimensional column schemes to handle sub-grid scale vertical fluxes in this case. But if your grid resolution is smaller or finer than say 1 kilometer, generally, for cloud resolving, even less than 2 kilometers is also okay, depending upon how big is your cloud. Generally, we say that cumulus scales are approximately 1 to 10 kilometers. Okay, but there can be clustered clouds can be clustered also, right? And clustered convective clouds can have a larger dimension, larger size and shape, right? So to simulate the cloud clusters or mesoscale convective complexes, in which case you have got large clusters of cloud. Okay, you can use slightly coarser model resolution, but if you are trying to resolve individual clouds, convective clouds, then your model must have a thinner resolution, final resolution, which should be preferably less than 3 kilometers. Okay, so for this fine grid spacing, it resolves the dynamics of the individual clouds. Okay, and also slightly calculates the microphysics more accurately. The updrafts and downdrafts are resolved individually for the user thermostat because your resolution is very small. The PBL and or diffusion schemes handle local subgrid scale mixing. Okay. Now this diagram is familiar to you. It's illustration of the cumulus processes. You already have seen this slide also earlier. Okay. A typical cumulus cloud has updraft, downdraft, determinant taking place from the top of the cloud, compensating subsidence in the surrounding environment, okay, and entrainment processes. Okay, this occurs at the top of the boundary layer. Base of the cumulus clouds are typically at the top of the boundary layer. Okay, so the cumulus schemes used for grid columns that completely contain convective clouds, typically grid size is greater than 10 kilometers. Redistributes air in column to account for vertical convective fluxes. Updrafts take boundary air upwards. Downdrafts take mid-level air downwards. Okay, so there is a cycle. The lower level fluxes from the surface are carried upwards by the updrafts, and the upper level properties of the middle atmosphere is brought down by the downdrafts. Okay. The schemes have to determine when to trigger convective column, how fast to make the convection act. Okay, so depends on the schemes and the other purpose of the schemes. So you are trying to use or parameterize the effect of deep convection, and the schemes work in individual columns that are considered convectively unstable. Okay. So obviously, before invoking deep convection, you have to check whether your conditions are met for the existence of deep convection or not. The mass flux schemes used for cumulus parameterization transport surface air to top of the cloud and include environmental subsidence and around the clouds. Note that schemes have no net flux, mass flux. Subsidence compensates cloud mass fluxes exactly. The environmental subsidence around cloud warms and dries troposphere, removing instability over time. The dynamics may produce mean vertical motion in grid cell in response to scheme's heating profile. Additionally, downdrafts may cool the PBL. This is an illustration of how the large-scale environment controls these population or spectrum of convective clouds and how they in turn provide the feedback to the large-scale environment or large-scale processes. Okay, so there is a continuous two-way interaction. Large-scale processes control the convective processes, and convective clouds or processes in turn give feedback to the large-scale tendencies of heat, momentum, moisture, etc. Okay, so What are the options available? The cumulus schemes fall into two main classes. One category or one class are the adjustment type schemes like the Bates-Miller scheme. You have studied about the Bates-Miller scheme, right, in the theory earlier, isn't it? Another category is the mass flux type, which is more realistic but more complex, obviously. Right. In this category, you have got the Arakawa-Seward type schemes, relaxed Arakawa-Seward, or simplified Arakawa-Seward, Grail scheme, and many other schemes. Okay, but in the adjustment type, you have got the core type scheme, Bates-Miller scheme, etc., etc. Okay. Now this table gives you various options for cumulus parameterization. All these options are described here. This is controlled by this parameter, CU physics. Okay. So depending upon which scheme you want to use, whether you want to use Kane-Frisch scheme or Bates-Miller-Yannick scheme or Grail-Freitas scheme or old simplified Arakawa-Seward scheme or Grail-3 scheme, TTK scheme, okay, Jahn-McFarlane scheme, and so on. Okay, you have to use these separate options for invoking different schemes in the model. Okay, and here are the references. With the publications of this detailed investigation of these different schemes by the authors. Okay. Now, what about the triggers? The clouds only active in columns that meet certain criteria. Okay. In each column, we are trying to check these criteria, whether there is the presence of some convective available potential energy, whether KB is existing or not. Not too much convective inhibition, CIN should be there. Okay, if there's too much of CIN, that means convection will be inhibited and will not get the clouds. So too much of CIN should not be there. In soundings, Cape strength, minimum cloud depth from practical extent. You should have a minimum cloud depth for the practical extent. The closure of the scheme. The closure determines cloud strength, mass flux based on various methods. The clouds remove the cape over time. We have discussed this earlier in the cumulus parameterizing theory part. The clouds destroy the cape. Okay. The large-scale convective and radiative processes, they generate the cape, and through that clouds are formed. And once they are formed, they destroy, they remove the cape. Okay. The specified cape removal time scale, KF, ZM, TTK, BMD, Bates-Miller scheme. Quasi-equilibrium Arakawa-Seward with large-scale destabilization, decay, IET, and SAS. Okay. So all these things, now removal of the cape, etc., takes place in these schemes. Moisture convergence, low level, large scale accent, etc., through the mass convergence. So all these things one has to check before calculating the tendencies because of the cumulus convection. Right? Then there are ensemble models also for cumulus parameterization, and in that category about this scheme GF, Grail, phase star, G3, Grail, D, Grail Zervani. Use ensemble of triggers and closures, possibly with very varying parameters up to 144. It tracks mean of the sum ensemble to feed back to model. In principle, it can be tuned to emphasize various methods under the different conditions. Then you can also have shallow convection separately. As you mentioned earlier, some of the previous schemes have shallow convection included in them, but you can have it separately also. The non-precipitating shallow mixing dry PDM, okay, moistures and cools above. Okay, if in your model many grid points are not precipitating, okay, they are just fixed, then you can use these schemes, okay, separately, like Kane-Frisch, SAS schemes, etc. Then there are schemes, which are standalone for shallow convection, and they are used in this University of Washington, GREAMS, and SAS, KSAS, etc., etc. Part of the previous schemes with mass flux methods are like these schemes, and you have to use these options for that non-linear PBM, physics 10 or 12 or 4. Some of these cumulus convection schemes also calculates the momentum transports. Okay, like the SAS scheme or NSAS scheme or TDK and ZM. Most schemes transport momentum as a passive scalar, but ZM, this scheme, and NSAS scheme include a convective pressure gradient term for the calculation of the momentum transport. Then, from the mass flux type of scheme, especially the cloud detrainment can take place, but then this facility is not available if you are using a adjustment type of scheme like the Betz-Miller-Yannick. Most schemes retrain cloud and ice at the cloud top, which occurs in the reality, but if you are using an adjustment scheme like core scheme or Betz-Miller-Yannick, then that facility is not available. The Kane-Fisher scheme also retrains snow and rain. These are then used by the microphysics. Then there are provisions there in the model for cloud radiation interaction. Like the Grell scheme, the Kane-Fisher scheme and MSKF scheme interact using this parameter. If you are using CU rad feedback is equal to 1, that means it allows for the radiation interaction to provide a cloud fraction and amount in active grid columns. Then in that case, we calculate the cloud fraction. If you are using the CU rad feedback equal to 1, then this schemes, Grell scheme, KF scheme, etc., they will allow you to calculate the cloud fraction, an amount in active grid clouds, wherever the clouds are there, or convection occurs. The Jahn-McFarlane is part of the CESM, okay, the ensemble model, convective ensemble model suite that also provides a part of the cloud fraction used with CESM or MG microphysics and UW's allowed scheme. If you are using the GFDL radiation scheme, there is a Slingo method of cloud fraction. We have studied this Slingo method, I guess, earlier in our theory class. Okay, this is the simplest one, Slingo's method. From many schemes using precipitation rate, top and bottom to compute a cloud fraction. Okay, from simplest scheme like Slingo to complex scheme like TDK are available for computing the cloud fraction. Then CUDT, at what time step or time interval you should calculate the effect of the cumulus parameterization. Okay, whether you should every time step or you can skip some time steps. Okay, so CUDT is used to indicate the time between cumulus schemes calls. Typical value is 5 minutes. Note that for Kane-Fisher scheme, this is also used for averaging time for vertical velocity trigger, not used for G3 or GD schemes. Okay, so this is the controlling parameter for invoking the cumulus parameterization, and these are the different things, cloud microphysical parameters options available when you are using different cumulus parameterization scheme. And these are the options like you can use CU physics, that is for the cumulus physics option as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 up to 99 to use different types of cumulus convection schemes like Kane-Fisher eta scheme, use the eta model, or option number 2 for Betz-Miller-Yannick scheme, option number 3 for Grell-Freitas scheme, old simplified recovery scheme, and so on. Okay, and these are available in all these models. In this case, if you are using this scheme, then you also get the tendencies of the cloud water, rainwater, cloud ice, and snow. Okay, but it doesn't provide you the momentum tendency. That means it does not calculate the momentum transport. It does allow you to do the shallow convection. Okay, and it also allows you to interact with the radiation. So for each of these different types of convection schemes, this is summarized here in this table, what it can provide you, what it cannot provide you, okay, etc. Whether it interacts with radiation, whether it does not interact with radiation, and so on. Okay, whether it interacts or it provides you the tendencies only for the cloud water and cloud ice, or whether it can provide you tendencies for other species also, and so on. Okay, so this table summarizes all that. So you can see how many options are there for convection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 options available for different cumulus parameterization schemes in the demographic model. Okay. What is recommended? Okay, which one you should use? Okay, and from the experience from several studies, experiments, people have summarized their experience like you're having a grid size which is greater than or equal to 10 kilometer, then probably you need a cumulus scheme, right? These release instability gradually prevent grid point storms. Okay, but if your grid size is less than or equal to 3, then this is like a transition zone. There is a question mark whether you should also use cumulus parameterization or you should not use cumulus parameterization because you may think that it might directly resolve the convection. So this is a kind of a transition zone. Grid size less than 3 kilometer. Okay. Well, in the grid size less than 3 kilometer, you will definitely be able to resolve the individual clouds. But if your grid size is between 3 and 10 kilometer, then that question comes. Whether your model will be able to resolve or not, that question comes if your grid size is 3 to 10 kilometer. But if it is less than 3 kilometer, certainly in that case, your model will be able to explicitly resolve the clouds. Okay. However, there are cases where the earlier triggering of convection by cumulus schemes help. Actually, the thing that sometimes these options they may work better for you in certain situations because our experience is that when we use the uh, grid size even less than 3 kilometer up to 1 kilometer, we could get better results if we invoked the cumulus option. That means we do not take it for granted that the convective clouds will be automatically resolved if our grid size is less than 3 kilometer. We found that results were better if we use the cumulus parameterization, although it is supposed to explicitly resolve by itself. Okay. So people sometimes, even for the cloud resolving scale simulation, they set the cumulus option as one. One in the sense that they do use at least some kind of cumulus parameterization scheme. Okay. So this is what is recommended, but you can always have your own curiosity or experiments to test that whether a particular scheme works better for you or not, or how so many schemes perform in your case, etc. There are 12 of them available presently in model I have seen. Okay, so we have discussed the different cumulus parameterization schemes. Okay, just let me have it. Are you hearing me clearly? Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Just 1 minute. I'll just uh, take a break for a while. I'll just come back in 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, so I'm back. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good. How many of you are there in the class? You see now only I think 5 or 6 people, right? See only, so it's total 7. So including me and the presentation. So only 5 are there it seems. Anyway, uh, is there any question before we start the next scheme? Do you have any point to discuss? So far, so we have covered almost all the schemes. Now only the last one is left, microphysics. Anything you would like to discuss? Hello?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, yes, sir, one question.
Yeah, tell me.
While reading my review paper also, there were two parameterization schemes, PBL and convective. So I tried to study about that part also. There was a line somewhere which said that these configurations are combined to create different. These schemes are combined to create distinct configurations, approximately 12 of them. So is it a particular number that they'll create only 12 configurations, or it can be some other number as well?
No, say again. You use different scheme.
I'm just repeating the line again. The statement was different PBL and convection schemes are combined to create distinct configurations, that is approximately 12.
Okay. So that means by using different options of PBL and the convection schemes, you could create different configurations of the model. And in that case, that author, whatever paper you are reading, that could create about 12 configurations of the model. Right. So each configuration, each option that you use, that is equivalent to one version of your model. And especially these kind of things are good. One thing is that for doing the sensitivity experiments, that which scheme is sensitive more or less to a given situation. Now, to simulate a better result, which scheme is better? You can use for that purpose, or as you studied in the ensemble forecasting, that you can have many combinations because you don't know which scheme is really good, no scheme is perfect. So you can have an ensemble of the model. And in that case, suppose if you do not have other models available to, like models of ECMWF or NCMRWF or GFS, JMA, etc., then you can use your own WRF model for creating the ensemble. And in that case, each ensemble member will have a particular set of the configuration, particular set of the convection scheme, or particular set of the boundary layer parameterization scheme. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So, any other point, or we proceed further? No other point. So, okay, then we proceed further. So we put this into the full screen mode. All right. So now we'll discuss this part, cloud microphysics part. The cloud microphysics provides atmospheric heat and moisture tendencies for microphysical rates or microphysical species, like whether it is liquid water, ice, snow, etc. Also, it provides you the grid scale rainfall. Now, we mentioned earlier during theory classes that we have got at least 2 types of rainfall. Now, when rainfall is warm rain, one is the convective rain, other is the non-convective rain or large-scale precipitation, or also called the grid-scale precipitation. But when it is a frozen precipitation, especially snow, etc., when it takes place in the cold areas, you can have 3 types of precipitation. One is the frozen, that is snow. Other is the convective, and the third is the non-convective. So one of the role of the cloud microphysics parameterization is also to calculate the non-convective precipitation, or large scale precipitation. Okay. Now, these are the illustrations. You must have seen this slide before, I guess. No. They are the common types of clouds illustrated here. Okay. And these cloud species are very important for radiation parameterization scheme also, because you need to calculate the effect of individual clouds on the radiation for cloud radiation interaction, because you need to know how much is the uh, droplet size, what is the droplet size, uh, how much is the cloud cover, how many numbers are there, droplet number, size distribution, etc. Okay, so depending upon the type of cloud microphysics that you choose, accordingly it will provide good feedback to the radiation or some limited feedback to the radiation. And the different clouds which are considered in the model are illustrated there, like cirrocumulus, cirrus, cumulonimbus, cumulus, altostratus, stratocumulus, stratus, and so on. Okay. So the model considers grid scale averages, so will not resolve the fine scale structures. Okay. This illustrates the different cloud species in different schemes. Like if you are using the Kessler scheme, then you have got only 3 cloud species. One is the cloud water, one is the rainwater, other is the water vapor. Okay, simplest type of scheme, Kessler scheme. If you are using the WSM3 single moment 3 scheme, then you have got these many things. In that case, you have got good treatment of the frozen particles and also the liquid particles. That means depending on the temperature, if temperature is less than 0, then you have got Q ice, Q snow, and sometimes can be Q big. That is what allows to form snow or ice. And if you are having temperature greater than 0, then in that case you have got the cloud water or rainwater. In more complex scheme, WSM5, you have got more complex interaction. In that case, you have got QS also. Okay, interacting with QC and QI, okay, etc. In WSM6, again, you have got some more species, like you have got the grapple also in this case. Okay, in the Fourier scheme, you have got some more interaction, ice, snow, and grapple. So depending upon what complexity and how much computing power you have, you can accordingly use different cloud microphysics schemes. Okay, and they are illustrated here and how they interact with each other. Okay, WRF microphysics options, that is controlled by MP physics microphysics options. Ranges of levels of sophistication, like you're having just a warm rain in the tropics where there is no ice, and Kessler scheme is pretty good. Okay. If you want to slightly become more complex, in that case you can use WSM3. Okay. If you want to go more complex, become more complex, then you can have WSM5. Okay. It is 5 types of species, but there is no grapple in this case. If you want to use grapple also, then you better use WSM6 or LIMS scheme. In this case, you have about 6 types, including grapple. Okay, and these are available in WSM6, LIMS scheme, Goddard, that is NASA's scheme, SBU, ETA, Fourier scheme. Okay, then you have got also choices for the double moment. Okay, they are all for the single moment, but you can also have choice for the double moment. Do you remember single moment and double moment differences between the two? We have discussed this in the class some time back. What is the difference between single moment and the double moment? Do you remember that? Yes or no? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So do you remember? Yeah, do you remember the difference between single moment and the double moment? Schemes? Or you don't remember? Nobody remembers it seems. See, when we say that we are taking into account different cloud microphysical parameters like cloud water or cloud ice or snow or grapple or hail, what are we talking about? we are talking about the mixing ratio of those cloud microphysical parameters, right? When we say the cloud species or hydrometeors, that means normally we mean that we are going to predict, okay, or solve the prognostic equations for those cloud species, whether it's cloud water, rainwater, ice, snow, grapple, hail, etc. We calculate the mixing ratios of those parameters. But in the radiation calculation, as you have heard, that we also sometimes need or get a better cloud radiation feedback if we also have the number concentration of the cloud droplet or microphysical parameters. We have the information about the number concentration of the cloud microphysical parameters, then we can have better feedback with the radiation. Okay. Also, sometimes we have third moment. So if you have both mixing ratio and the number concentration, that means you are using a double moment scheme. You want to have more complex, the third moment, that means you have also the size distribution. And obviously it is cumbersome to calculate the size of individual cloud microphysical parameters. Even to calculate the number of concentration of the cloud microphysical parameters are quite complex and very tedious in terms of the calculation. Okay, so many times they are just approximated. Okay, and we call it bulk parameterization, bulk schemes, in which these things are just approximated. Okay, so you have got a single moment scheme like WSM3 or WSM5. S indicates for single moment. Okay, three species. These three indicates the species, number of the species, whether there are only water vapor, cloud water, and rainwater. Number of species is 3, and this is single moment. We are calculating only the mixing ratio. But if you are using more species, that means you are, in this case you are using 5 type of species. The single moment 5. So you are calculating the mixing ratio of 5 species of cloud microphysical parameters. Okay, you can have also 6 species, like in the lean scheme, Goddard scheme, etc. But if you want to use double moment, that means both mixing ratio as well as number concentration, then you should use better Thomson scheme, Watson, Milbrand and Yao, WTM5, double moment, 5 types of cloud microphysical parameters, or WDM6, that means 6 species or 6 types of cloud microphysical parameters, mixing ratio and their number concentration. Or sometimes we have even bin, the spectral bin scheme types, which can categorize different species according to this, their sizes into different bins, and you can have so many bins, 120 to 150 array, so many types of parameter, their number concentration and their sizes. Okay, so each scheme has their own complexity, and these are the different options available for cloud microphysics, MP physics options, starting from 1 to 3 up to 18. Okay, so many types of cloud microphysics parameterizations have been developed by different authors, and they are implemented in the WRF model. Starting with 1, you are using option number 1, that means you are using Castle scheme, simplest scheme. Okay, in this case I have just 3 species: water vapor, cloud water, and rainwater. Lean scheme, you are using option number 2, that means lean scheme. Okay, and this is a reference for that. WSM3, option number 3, this is the author for that, and so on. Okay, so you can read yourself all these schemes, options, and who are the authors, where the paper is published. Okay, and individual paper you can read. You're trying to do research on the cloud microphysics parameterization or cloud microphysics. All right, then some more options, not only in the previous table, of course, more options are available here. Option number 19, 21, and so on. And we are the schemes for that. NSSL 7 class, NSSL 6 class, etc. WSM 7, WDM 7, and so on. Okay. So, I mean, lot of people have got interest in the cloud microphysics research on the cloud microphysics parameterization, and therefore so many options are available. Okay, I see that latest scheme was implemented in 2019 last year. Okay, there was WSM7 and WDM7 with developed by Bay, Hong, and Tao. Tao is the person at NASA. Hong is the person at Korean, basically, but worked for NCAR. Okay, Hong. So they tried to develop WSM7 and WDM7 scheme. So read the schemes in detail, you can read this paper. Okay. So they are the cloud microphysical parameterization options available in the model. So the cloud microphysics, as you have already studied, okay, we have to skip these things, otherwise again we have sort of time. Latent it accounts for computation of the latent release from condensation, evaporation, deposition, sublimation, freezing, melting. In all these processes of change of state from one phase to another phase, right? The latent heat is released, right? Whether it is condensation, evaporation, and so on. The particle types are, for example, cloud water, raindrops, ice crystals, snow, grapple, also hail in some cases. The total mass contributions to liquid uploading in dynamics. And it considered the processes like aggregation process, creation process, the growth of raindrops, the fallout of raindrops, and so on. So you have studied all these processes. Do you remember this? Accretion process, the aggregation process. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So the microphysics single and double moment scheme, we have to rush, otherwise again, no, we'll not be able to complete by 1:30. I want to finish this physics options today. Okay, so that in next class we'll talk about another thing about the WRF model. So in the single and double moment schemes, single moment schemes have one prediction equation for mass per species, with particle size distribution being derived from fixed parameters. Okay. In the double moment scheme, add a prediction equation for number concentration, as I already mentioned to you. Okay, per dm species, and indicated by NR or NS, etc. Okay. The DM schemes, double moment schemes, may only be double moment for a few species, not for all the species. The DM schemes allow for additional processes such as size sorting during fallout, and sometimes aerosol CCL effects also. Spectral beam schemes, as I mentioned, it categorizes in different beams for different size of species, especially some of our Israeli friends from Israel, they are interested in this. I mean, they have developed these kind of schemes at Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Kane. The name of the author, Lean, Barry Lean schemes. Okay, size distribution resolved by doubling mass bins, typically 32 for each particle. I've met these people, Larry Bean. He was also working on both bin cloud microphysics as well as the effect of the clouds on landscaping. Okay, how the clouds can produce shadows on the surface, how to take into account the effects of that. Now, we're working on this Larry Bean. This Alexander Kane, I think his name, full name is Alexander Kane. He works on basically cloud microphysics. Many adaptive arrays are quite expensive. Options have 4 by 32 fast schemes or 8 by 32 full schemes arrays. The fault terms in the microphysics. Microphysics are schemes handling fault terms for particles. Usually everything except cloud water has a fault term. Right? How it falls and then impacts into different layers from one layer to another layer. For long time steps such as mesoscale applications, where the time step of the integration is approximately 60 seconds, very small time, it's 2 minutes, that means no, not one, just 1 minute. The VT is 5, the terminal velocity is specified as 5 meters per second. Drops may fall more than a grid level in a time step. Okay, in a given time step of the model, which may be 60 seconds, that is just 1 minute. The drops can fall down from more than 2 layers in a given time step. This requires splitting the time step, Marsh schemes or Lagrangian numerical methods, WSM and WDM schemes to keep the schemes numerically stable. Okay. So they have tried to incorporate the complexities to handle the complexity, so that it avoids the failure of the model. Otherwise, sometimes the model will abort. Particle densities and shapes. Some schemes allow variable densities, especially for rhyming, rather than discrete densities for snow, grapple, and hail. Especially WSM6 and WDM6 schemes simply combine snow and grapple for the purpose of computing for speed. Rhyme fraction is QG divided by QS plus QG. Okay. So there is a mixing ratio of grapple divided by snow of the grapple and snow mixing ratio. The NSSL, you know what is NSSL? Yes or no? Have you heard of NSSL? No.
Yes, sir, we've heard. We don't remember the full form.
What is NSSL?
So I don't remember.
Okay.
But
Stands
we
for,
have discussed. Sir.
okay. Stand for National Severe Storms Laboratory. Okay, NSSL. Part of the NOAA at Oklahoma. And NSSL people, they work mostly on the severe storms, local severe storms, especially the tornadoes, okay, thunderstorms. So they have developed schemes to compute volume of grapple as a density variable. P3 computes growth by rhyming, deposition to compute density for ice, snow, grapple, combined particles. And this is one of the new scheme, ISH MAEL scheme predicts density and aspect ratio. And this is also the safe of the cloud microphysical parameters. Another scheme, WHOOZI, the BIN scheme, have separate ice crystals, habit plates. When shape of the scheme, ice crystals that you have studied earlier, can have like a plates or columns or dendrites, etc. So it takes into account the different shape of the ice crystals. If you are using the WHOOZI scheme, WHOOZI BIN scheme, obviously, if you are going to that much of detail, then it is going to be a very complex scheme. And such schemes are normally not used for day-to-day weather forecasting in the NWP. They are good for the research purpose, for your understanding. Okay, and maybe in future when we have much more computing power, already we have computing power to 7-8 petaflops. But despite that much of computing power, still using these schemes in the operational model is not practical, not feasible, because the whole time will go in computing these parameters, size and shape, number concentration of the cloud biological parameters. Right? Therefore, they are used for conceptual purpose for understanding the physics, behavior of the cloud microphysical parameters, but not for the operational and NWP, these kind of schemes. Even to use the WDM6 in operational model is very, very difficult, because it requires a lot of computing power, computing the double moment and six species and double moment. So it requires a lot of computing power. So for kind of a post-mortem studies or case studies of the events, you can certainly use these schemes to see that whether your simulation is improved or not now by these schemes. But utilizing them in the real-time forecasting is very, very expensive. Okay. Then it also allows the interaction with aerosols, especially for the WRF chemistry. Can provide aerosols to some options if you are using lean microphysics or Watson microphysics or CESM. The WDM, double moment scheme, and NSSL option, and the spectral Bill schemes can affect idealized CCLs, cloud condensation nuclei, which affect cloud droplet number. The Thomson scheme, aerosol aware scheme, can use its own aerosols, water and ice nuclei. Okay. Treat ice nuclei as aerosol, initialized from climatology and advected. Since version 4 of the WRF model 4.0 also can do dust emissions, more and more complexities are included in the latest version of the model 4.0 onwards. You can also include the emission of the dust, especially if you are using the WRF model for dust storm studies in the Rajasthan desert areas. You can test or try these options, dust emission equal to 1. The body sun aerosol version V.40 interacts with climatological aerosols. Okay. Now, interaction with the radiation. Several schemes now pass their own ice, snow, cloud, water, particle sizes through RRTMG radiation. Right. We have studied, have heard this RRTMG scheme of radiation when we are discussing radiation parameterization of the WRF model. Okay. So,
Yes.
yeah? Hello?
Yes.
You have heard, right? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, good. So RRTM is the rapid reducing transfer model. Okay, and in the Thomson scheme or WSM scheme, WTM scheme, all these schemes, this interaction with the radiation is allowed. This represents the so-called indirect effect on radiation due to drop size variation. Other schemes do not, and radiation uses internal assumptions about particle sizes. Okay, and this is how cloud aerosol radiation interaction takes place. Okay, so I will have to skip some of the slides, otherwise now we will not be able to finish about 1:30, already 1:19, 1:20 almost. Okay, these are the different options available. I mean, as you have seen already, and then how many types of scheme, I mean, species, the mass variables, is taken into account or considered when you use different schemes. Okay. So, for example, as you know, already know, if you are using the LIN scheme in Purdue University of USA, then you have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mass variables followed by physical parameters. Okay, and there are many more also, like Milbrand 2 moment scheme. You have got many more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, even hail, especially if you are trying to test a hailstorm case or trying to study a case of hailstorm, then better to use this scheme so that you will see whether your model was able to produce hail or not, whether the hail mixing ratio was more than 0 or not. Okay, especially this scheme as well as this scheme, the Goddard scheme, 4i scheme, also has the hail option. So there is trying to study a hailstorm, case of a hailstorm, especially some of you who are from Delhi, maybe that Hitesh or Anish might remember the 7th February case of hailstorm in Delhi, Noida. You remember that? Hitesh, are you there? Anish, are you hearing me? No, no response. I don't know. In 2019, 7th of February, there was a massive hailstorm in Delhi area, NCR Delhi region, and so much so that it looked as if the entire road, the entire area was covered by snow. It appeared to be like a snowfall, but actually it was a severe hailstorm. So we want to test those kind of cases, hailstorm, then better use these options, which are the hail option QH. Okay. Then also, of course, these are the other parameters for the double moment, like NI, number concentration for ice, number concentration for rain, and for other species also more complex, right? Number concentration for snow, gravel, hail, etc., and so on. Okay. And similarly for other schemes, all the are there. Okay. And then indicates cesium number, BOLG indicates gravel volume. Okay, gravel volume. And these are the list for other options, NP physics option 30, 32 up to 55. Okay, this is the latest one that we just mentioned earlier. Okay, so you can just see these tables, read these tables for yourself. Microphysics options recommendations, which ones should be used? Probably not necessary to use a graphene scheme if your grid size is more than 10 kilometers, because at that coarse grid resolution, you will not be able to resolve grapples accurately in the model. Okay. The drafts Reducing grapple not resolve. Cheaper schemes may give similar results. When resolving individual drafts and drafts, grapple schemes should be used. Okay. So if you are trying to resolve an individual draft, then just try to see which scheme provides you the grapple and use that scheme. All domains use same option. Okay. Rainfall output, that is your large scale precipitation, grid scale precipitation. Cumulus and microphysics can be run at the same time. As I mentioned earlier, although sometimes using grid resolution to be less than 3 km, 1 to 3 km, we may think that it might get explicitly resolved, but it may not. And so your result may not be very good. And therefore, to have a good result, you invoke both cumulus and microphysics option. The RW outputs rainfall accumulation since simulation starts time 0. Okay. Rain C used for rain convective rainfall obtained from the cumulus scheme. And rain non-C, non-convective scheme comes from the microphysics scheme. And so the total rainfall is the sum of these two, rain C and rain NC, that is non-convective rainfall. Rain NCV is the time step values. Okay. You have the control for that time step. Snow NC or snow NCV are snow substrate of rain C and rain NC, that means convective snow or non-convective snow. Okay. Also for grapple. So all these complications are now available in the WRF model, microphysical schemes. So as you have seen, each physical processes can interact with each other, and that is allowed in the model, like shown by this flow diagram, how each of these physical processes interact with each other. They are illustrated in this figure. Further illustrated by these, I think we are running short of time, so I have to skip some of the slides. Okay, but anyway, you can see these PowerPoint slides and read yourself also. Have you been able to get the PowerPoint slides? Hello? Are you able to hear me? Am I audible? I'm disconnected or what?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Okay, I'm not disconnected. That means I'm still connected. Okay. All right. So, well, these are the calling sequence of the physics. Like in what sequence the dynamics and physics are called in the model. Okay. It's called to solve advances one domain by one model time step. Like every time step, when you integrate the model by every time step, then in what sequence you should call the physics. Like in the first time step, the calculation of the physics tendencies are done. That means you calculate the tendency of radiation, surface, land state update, PBL, cumulus, etc. So in other words, first we are integrating the model. First of all, you calculate the effects of the physical processes by utilizing these physical parameter schemes. After you have done that, then you go to the dynamics part to compute the dynamics. That means tendencies due to the diffusion, advection, okay, 3D momentum, geopotential, surface, etc. For acoustic steps, update the 3D momentum, theta, if you are trying to resolve the gravity waves. Scalar dynamics tendency and update, advection, diffusion, etc. Microphysics update. So this is the sequence in which you should call the physical processes. Like first of all, you compute the physical tendencies because of this radiation, surface, land surface, PBL convection, but no cloud microphysics. That you do at the end. Okay. So after you have done that, then the dynamics, tendency of diffusion, advection, etc. And then after that, then you compute the microphysics scheme of tendencies and update the entire probabilistic variables and go to the next time step. This is how it is the sequence. Okay, so this is just an illustration of the time steps, how the schemes are involved for different convection, PBL, etc. Right? I think you can just look at yourself on all these slides. They're running short of time. LW time step schemes, well, actually is also self-explanatory. First case from advection. Okay, first RK step, that is the time step in Rumikuta, 1/3 of the step in reduction. I just time flow diagram illustrating how you move from one to the next time step, and during that how your physics tendencies and dynamics tendencies are computed. Okay. So this is the illustration of the name list parameter, and this is indicated by end physics option in your name list parameter. When you see the script of the WRF model, then you will find a name list parameter called end physics and person physics. And in this, you have got a list of all the options, 7 major physics option categories like microphysics, cloud microphysical processes. Okay, all the options you can set yourself, 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever you have seen earlier in the table. You can choose or select any one options in that. And this separation by comma indicates your domain, nested domain. Like if you have only one domain of the WRF model, then only one of the parameters is to be set. If you have got 2 domains nested within each other, then you can specify that whether you want to use the same physics option for both the domains, or you want to use separate physics option for different domains. You understand? I mean, suppose if your outer domain is coarser, but inner domain has become very finer. Like inner domain may be 1 or 2 kilometer resolution, but outer domain may be coarser resolution. So you can set different options for microphysics in different domains. And similarly here for the radiation, long wave, for the short wave, okay, surface layer physics, and so on. So these are the options available for different domains. You can set yourself different physics set before running real or ideal. Need to match with soil, number of soil levels, layers, variable. Okay, especially for the if you're using this urban physics in the model. And this for the PVM for planetary water layer, and this for the cumulus convection. Okay, so these are the things you can find out in the name parameter called person physics. Okay, is it clear how you set different options for different domains? So that's it. End of this slide, 133 slides altogether. Okay, and this completes your physical processes options in the WRF model. Okay, I've taken 4 lectures so far. Yesterday we could not take one lecture yesterday, right? We missed yesterday's lectures. Otherwise, today we could have completed the idealized options of the WRF model. So I would like to take one more class at least for the WRF model. I hope to finish the idealized cases in one class. And when do you like to have the class? Would you like to have the class tomorrow or next week? Tomorrow is Friday. Tell me. Do you want to have a class tomorrow or next week?
So tomorrow is fine.
Okay, so tell me the time when you are free. What time you are free, when you are free? Whether afternoon or forenoon. Forenoon 11:30 will be okay, or afternoon 2:30 will be okay. Which one?
So from 11:30 to 1:30 we have class.
Oh, your class from 11:30 to 1:30. Okay, then
Yes.
maybe afternoon is better. Afternoon,
Yes.
are you free? Are you
Yes,
free in the
sir.
afternoon? So
Yes.
suppose you have 2:30 to 3:30, will that be okay?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. And are you free after 3:30 also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in case if we need longer time, then we can continue beyond 3:30 also. Right. So we will start at 2:30 and try to complete at least the idealized portion of the WRF model. Will that be okay?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So this
Yes,
week
sir.
we will complete at least the important parts of the WRF model. And there are many things now which You can read yourself. Like WRF for the data assimilation, WRFDA. Unless you want it, if you want me to explain, then I can explain it next week. The data assimilation part of the WRF model. What do you want? Do you want me to explain? Or you want to read yourself? Tell me. Nobody is speaking. Tell me whether you want me to explain or you want to read yourself. I'm going to stop this presentation. And I see that only 4 people are left. All are vanished. Including me, only 5 are there. So now you have to tell me whether you want me to explain the WRF DA portion or you will read yourself.
So data assimilation will be better if you explain, sir.
Okay. So if so, then we will have to continue next week. Okay. Also. And let me see, it may take 1 or 2 classes or more, I don't know. But tomorrow we will try to complete the main part of the WRF model, which is used by everybody. I mean, some people use or some people may not use the data assimilation, but whatever we have discussed so far, everybody uses. Okay, this portion. So that we shall finish by tomorrow. And next week, if you want me to explain the data assimilation, then we'll see 1 or 2 classes. We'll try to complete data assimilation also. So that definitely no more classes of NWP after next week. Everything would have finished. Next week itself will be what date? 25th is Monday, I think. Monday is 25th or Sunday is 25th.
26 is Monday.
26th is Monday. So next week will that means up to 30th, of course. But we will try to finish by Monday or Tuesday maximum. Maybe minimum 2 classes may be required for the data assimilation. So by 27 October or 28 October, we definitely will try to finish. And all these are available to you. This program is available to you because the end of semester examination is not declared yet. Otherwise, no problem. You will be forced to stop otherwise. Right. So we'll see up to 26. No, not definitely not possible about 26. 27 or 28 we will try to complete the data assimilation part also if you want me to do that. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording now. Very long recording for today's class, 2 hours, more than 2 hours. So Adira has got the today's recording. Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
stopped recording.